Was the shofar from the town of Tzfat in the northern mountains of Israel, blown by David, my husband. Every day, it's a custom among lots of different streams of Jews to blow the shofar. We do that in Rosh Hashanah as a mitzvah to crown the king, to bring a new decree, a new relationship with God into the world. But it's a custom to do it every day of Elul this month in order to prepare our souls. The shofar is like the pure, wordless cry of the soul, and there are different sounds. If you think about it, if you listen, those are all different rhythms of crying. And that, I think it's a Leonard Cohen song about how the cracks let the light in. So sometimes we need to cry out in order to say no to the way that something has been and open ourselves to receive something new. I can tell you that when I have, on a few occasions, but intense occasions, been in a state of despair or something like that, and instead of trying to fight it or give into it or believe it or not believe it or anything, I've just gone into direct relationship with God, crying and expressing everything. And the times that I remember, there've only been maybe a few times when I've done this very deeply, maybe just even two, but they've taken place over several days. I'm not crying the whole time. Sometimes I'm like, the crying will go deep, and then all of a sudden joy comes out, and then maybe I'll cry again. And it's not just crying from, like, there's crying. And when I was in college, I had several sessions with this most amazing therapist. He passed away a long time ago. His name was Jerry Bach, Olav Shalom, and he may his soul rest in joy. So he told me that there are different kinds of tears, that there are tears of self-pity. Those are like the tears of victimhood, where we tell ourselves a story over and over again. And that just reinforces it, makes it stronger, locks us in. It becomes our identity. The identity is like sewing on a button. Every time you go through that narrative, it gets more solid, more stuck. You believe in it more. And then there are tears of sadness and kind of purging. And those tears are therapeutic. Those tears actually heal. Those tears actually remove trauma and silencing, those words that aren't spoken. By the way, I would love it if you say hi in the chat. Yesterday, I've heard that there are problems yesterday. I couldn't see anything that people were posting in the chat. So if you don't mind, try again. It's good to hear from you. It really helps me know which way, where everybody is, where you are. I'm speaking to you, from me to you. So last night, we were right now in Tzfat. We've been living in Jerusalem basically since 6 weeks after the war started. We were here when the war started, and when my daughter got married here in Tzfat, like 2 years ago, November, there was artillery fire going out, and there were missiles being intercepted overhead, and air raid sirens and whatever. So we don't have a shelter in this house, so we ended up moving. And this is the first time actually we're back, and it's close to 2 years, and I'm processing some of the trauma of that. I never, do you ever say to yourself, like, I didn't sign on for this. I didn't come here for this. So I feel like that a lot. And that's part of what disturbed and disrupted is. And it is connected with becoming supernatural, 100%. So it happens to be, we came up because I just got tired of never coming. So we came up, but it happens to be that this week is the Klezmer Festival. Klezmer Festival is a yearly big music festival. Last year it was canceled because of the war. And I think the 2 years before that, we were in the US at the time. So we haven't been here for a while, but people come from all over Israel for Klezmer, and there are many stages around the town of Tzfat, which is hilly. It's in this beautiful forested hill, low mountains. This is Israel mountains and valley. Just all around. The Sea of Galilee is that way, the Kinneret. It's like at night, the lights are so beautiful. twinkling in a special way that I've only ever seen here in Arizona. Maybe it's got to do with, it must have to do with the climate or the humidity or something, but just so beautiful. Anyway, so we have a custom. When we lived here, we had this custom. We did this almost every night, and certainly on the holidays and Shabbat. I think for some reason we're almost the only people that seem to do this, but my husband and I, we take out a little table and chairs. We have dinner on the street. People are walking by. It's so fun. It's so open. It's so wonderful. It's so different from any other place. So the last 2 nights with the festival, we did that. Around 6 o'clock, we took out the table and several chairs and a bottle of wine, and friends came over, unexpectedly or expectedly, and then they knew people. I was, constantly people coming, sitting, talking about real things, which is so amazing and so wonderful. And one of our friends, actually, a guy around our age, was talking about how hard it is. This very spiritual person who, is surrounded by souls, has communication with souls and sees things and gets messages, and as I'm sure some of you do. But anyway, he was saying that he was asking me, how I communicate, and do I feel like people are listening? And apparently his whole life he had a hard time expressing and a hard time being heard and seen. And that's extremely frustrating when you are on an advanced level of consciousness and you see and know things that other people maybe don't, or that most people don't. So I can relate to that. I grew up very tongue-tied, unexpressed, inarticulate when I was little. And that only changed in my junior year in high school, when I spent a year in London, and nobody knew that I was inarticulate and tongue-tied, and it even lasted longer than that. Actually, there were stages at which I opened, and now, seminal events. Now that's not a problem. But I do relate very much to the reality of feeling like a deep inner movement inside, like a deep transformational journey, which has accelerated in the last 6 months for me, and was precipitated at this stage by some major crises with actually 3 of my daughters, 1 per week for 3 weeks. Yeah, I'm not going to talk so much about that right now, but just to say that there's an unwinding that I'm experiencing, which is like like almost all transformations, that goes forward and then through a pushing and then arrest and then forward and arrest. So what's happened is that I see things more deeply than I did before. I mean, I've been on this kind of quest for a while, but I see things more deeply. I've seen a lot of my own patterns that were unconscious, even 6 months ago, even after all the many years of work. And I'm sure there are more, but it feels like they're far fewer, and I'm on the lookout for them. Like, I want to know. And when something happens, I'm looking and I'm talking to God, and I'm attempting to see what paradigm I'm connected to. And that is releasing. It's intense. Sometimes it's tense. I'm not going to lie. But it's also amazing. And what happens is, what I think is happening is, and what is meant to happen for all of us, is a field shift. What does that mean? So in the past, years ago, I talked a lot about morphic fields. I did a whole series of, I don't remember, 7 or 10 calls. It's probably still on my YouTube if you want to go look it up. But morphic field is basically an invisible field of energy that has its own laws of cause and effect. So that even yesterday I said, create your own reality bubble. How does this work? There are people who have different same situations, even doing very different results based on what? Based on what fields they're connected to. Fields of reality that have a gravity. This answers the question that, maybe you didn't ask, but I read this once. Who has more effect on outcomes, the patients or the doctors? I'm curious what you think. Patients or doctors? Hi, Carla. Hi, Hannah. Thanks so I am getting a couple messages. Thanks. Keep hi. So who do you believe has more, patient or doctor? It's an important question. It's an important answer. So in the study that I read, I thought patient, but it's doctor. And now I understand, after all the years of interviews I did on, quantum healing, consciousness, and soul, that show, and in the Geula summits, and the research, and the learning energy healing, and everything that I've been through, I now understand that every modality, every practitioner, every belief system, not just for healing, for finances, for relationships, for what's possible for a human, laws of nature versus miracles, every belief system doesn't stand alone in your brain. It connects you through mysterious means, including beliefs, but not only, to a specific morphic field that governs the laws of nature that you have access to. That's very intense. So one of the most important things we have to do, need to do, if we really want to shift our reality, is to change the morphic field that we're connected to. Now, one of the things that's happening in the world, one of the many things that's happening through, what I call the powers that be, the dark side, or the control grid, or however you want to see it. That's how I see it. And that includes a lot of people that don't know that they're fostering that, but because they're connected to that field. So it's not like everybody involved is evil or intentional, but still there are fears being pushed on us continuously, together with a narrative that tells us that our only safety is in following that crowd, being part of that grid, being part of that belief system. And many people have been listening to that, have been doing that, and often to their detriment. And it's not just that doing that we take actions that might not be the most conscious, the most guided, but we are tying ourselves to a certain field of reality. Like think of this as if you've ever had, played with magnets and iron filings, or if you had an Etch-a-Sketch or whatever, that you have a little magnetic wand and it moves around the iron filings inside of the box with the plastic cover, and you can make different faces and so forth. That's all magnetic field. They're electromagnetic fields. We all know about that, EMFs that are affecting us. And think about how much energy, it's electromagnetic, meaning it pulls things, it attracts things, repels things. How many electromagnetic fields are around us and passing through us all the time? There's a lot to say about that too. But the idea here is morphic fields. So there is a state shift that is required, that is part of our destiny, that is already beginning to happen. It's underway, but it's slow in human time. It's not taking a minute. It's not taking 3 days. It's taking years. And I, for one, would like to accelerate it and make it more smooth, at least for myself. And that can happen by connecting to a new morphic field. So the idea here is, again, like I keep repeating, the caterpillar melting down in order to move toward butterfly. That's a state shift. An oyster having an irritant in its soft tissue, that it creates a pearl. That's a state shift of sorts. The chicken getting too big for the egg, which doesn't move, and having to see its environment breaking open, terrifying, that is pressure forcing a state shift. So it's very different when we do this unconsciously, unwillingly, and when we do it consciously and willingly. So that's what I'm here to talk about. In one field, in the field that's called, I call Almin, the field of sorry, that's my WhatsApp, the field of exile, the field of the laws of nature, the field where God is judgmental in his relationship with us, and we are afraid, and we feel like we have to continuously earn our right just to exist. A lot of times that's running unconsciously. But when you see it consciously, you realize how hard it is to live with. And then we see our environment breaking down. We see our world starting to crack, crumble, become chaotic. And we see more and more that the powers and the structures and the institutions and the belief systems that we took for granted, that we never growing up expected to have to see change or break down, even if we don't think about the intentions of, some who are promoting chaos and control. So that's really very, very disruptive and disturbing for the human part of us, for identity. Very, very, very disturbing, very disruptive. And that is the backdrop through which we are existing right now, and it's part of the plan. But the deeper truth is, breakdown is necessary for breakthrough. One of the Rebbes of Chabad said that between every yesh, every something, existence, and a completely new form of that existence, like caterpillar to butterfly, like exile to redemption, like human 1.0 to human 2.0, all of those things. Mamali kol almin to sovev kol almin, if you've heard me talk about that. So between every two forms of existence, there must be a non-existence in between. Between every two different kinds of yesh, there must be an ayin, a non-existence, and nothing in between. That's what chaos is. That's what breakdown is. It's a melting that is necessary to turn a certain form. We have the form, right, and the light inside the form. So your soul, your personality, your being, your purpose, your mission, all of that is the light. And then the form is not just your body, but how your life is, how you think, how you process things emotionally, the fields that you're connected to. So in order to switch, like we try to change, but like one leg is chained or tied to the old field and we're trying to walk forward with the other one and it doesn't work. It keeps pulling us back. Maybe we get incremental change, but then again, gravity and time is operating against us too, and so is the increasing chaos. So in order to make this change, we need to be lighter, more fluid. We need to understand what's happening. We need to be strategic. We need to be conscious. We need to know what we want and where we're going, at least internally. And so one of the shifts that's involved here is, instead of working externally primarily, be working on your own internal nervous system. What field are you connected to? What is your belief about yourself, about God? What are your patterns that are causing you to replicate the things that you don't like? Where are you resisting reality instead of accepting it and then working to shift it? So there's a kind of acceptance that's like resignation. I'm so not for that. I'm so not for that. That's one of the things that happens when we get overwhelmed enough. We're like, what's the point? There's no point. I don't care anymore. I don't want to. I can't. That is exile magnified. That is exile, the snake voice speaking, hypnotizing you. We want to resist that. Hi, Julie. But at the same time, we have to understand that this is part of the picture, that this is the meltdown, the overwhelm, the moving to chaos. So when we can shift our stability from things have to stay the same, I'm going to resist change, I'm going to fight this, when we can shift that to, I am going to go deep inside, I'm going to find my soul, I'm going to find the presence of God, especially in Elul, the king is in the field. He is our beloved right now. He's just begging us to come and ask him for help. Come and ask him for help. Don't waste the opportunity. So we can work to facilitate that inner shift in our wiring, in our nervous system, in our belief system, in our cell physiology, in the neuropeptides that we produce through our habitual emotions. We can start to shift our thinking, and it's not all force. Shifting the thinking, like I said earlier in this call, shifting the thinking, like the shofar, starts with crying. It starts with seeing what is giving you pain, what is disturbing you, what is disrupting you, and not overriding it. Overriding it never works. That's not how transformation works. Accept it, embrace it, feel it, bring God into it, let it melt down, let it melt you down. And at the same time, start leaning into forming a desire inside of yourself, a desire for who you actually want to be and how you actually want to be and how you want the world to be and what your place in that is, what your role in that is. And that literally starts to shift reality. If you can do this persistently enough, even for a few weeks, things will really, really start to move. And this is how we become supernatural. That's what this state shift is about. This is at least the core foundation to it. To become more fluid, to look at everything that happens as to know that it's part of the process, to work to change our relationship, to change your relationship with your source, with your soul, with your desires, with the reality that's happening around us, in front of us, to us, and to us. The more that you can do that, both by making space for acknowledging, seeing, and having love for all of the tight identity defense programs that have been running you, the trauma, the wounds, that they're real. And at the same time, understanding that you're here to transmute those, that as those melt down, a new part of you can activate and create this state shift into a field of reality, a morphic field of reality, Sovev Kol Almin, a different kind of divine light that is not bound to the laws of nature as we know them, that does not keep you small and always in deficit, having to be better and earn more and beg for what you want and suffer because maybe you deserve it. It's a completely different state of being, completely different way of being. And maybe I will focus on that in the next broadcast. But what I want to leave you with for right now is that it's all happening for a reason. We are meant to be supernatural. I am not making this up. And that's because this entire nature, this entire matrix that we've been living in, that is the incubator for creation, that's like the womb of creation, is not meant to last forever. We're meant to be born. We're meant to be divine. We're created in the image of the divine, but then we're compressed and held back and connected to these fields. And now it's getting worse. The compression is getting bigger, stronger, deeper. Why? To force the shift. A rise of pressure here to force or catalyze a shift. And that shift is into a supernatural reality. That doesn't mean that it happens all in one instant and, suddenly, I don't know, you see fairies flying around and angels. That's not how I see it. But it does mean that instead of seeing reality as something that is, and you just have to deal with it, and particularly in a linear physical way, you can start to connect to deeper dimensions. You can start to connect to that direct soul love and relationship between you and God. That's part of it. And if you have issues in that relationship, as many of us do, that's something that gets to be worked on now as the king is in the field. That's one of the primary potentials of the month of Elul, to work on that relationship. And what does that mean? That doesn't mean in this context to try harder to be really, really good, although being good is, basically good. It depends if you're good as a slave or if you're good out of free choice. It's better than being bad, either way. But being good because you're afraid of not being good is not going to get you very far. We're here for freedom. We're here for a love relationship with our creator, with our source. And for most of us, that's not the way it's been. For humanity in general, that's not the way it's been. And that's a deep shift, and that is why things must break down. But because between every state of being, state A and state B, there has to be another thing, a zeroing out in between. Between every yesh, something and a new something, there has to be an ayin. There has to be chaos. There has to be a breakdown in between. It does not have to necessarily. If you resist it, it's going to feel very traumatic. But if you start to understand what's going on and you start to lean into a field and a new relationship, you will start to see that you are co-creating a reality bubble where things just work out better for you. And is it predictable how long it's going to take, or which way it's going to go, or how much work you have to do in a particular? No, it's not predictable. It's a living process. And there are only two choices here. There aren't three choices. The two choices are just be a victim of it, just be subject to it, be on the receiving side. However you deal with that, even if you try to keep it upbeat, or be a co-creator. To be a co-creator, the victim has to go. And that's not by saying, stop being a victim, you're wrong. It is by looking at your nervous system wiring, looking at your belief system, having love and compassion for yourself, feeling your feelings in your body, having it out with God in the most authentic way. The king is in the field. He's waiting for us to approach him on a very personal level, just as we are, just as you would do with somebody that you love and trust and you really need to work things out with. Maybe it's scary, maybe it's not scary, but it's authentic. And authenticity is what really changes things right now. And I don't just mean on a superficial level or on a verbal level, on the deepest levels. There's a story, I'll probably end with this, but there's a story of the Rebbe from the 70s, Lubavitcher Rebbe. I heard this from someone who was there. I heard it from Rabbi Moshe Feller, who sometime in the 70s, took a group of college kids to see the Rebbe, to meet the Rebbe in Brooklyn, New York. And they were able to ask questions. And one of them said to the Rebbe, I've heard that you do miracles. Is it true? And the Rebbe answered him in a very interesting way. He said, what's a miracle? What's a miracle? He said, everything that exists, that manifests in the world of action. That means our physical world. Olam maseh. In Kabbalah, that's our physical world. Everything that manifests in the world of action comes from the world of thought. Olam machshava. So if you change things successfully in the world of thought, this is a dimension of reality. It's not just what you think about, although that's part of it. If you change things, if you know how to reach up and change things in the world of thought, automatically they change in the world of reality. So does he do miracles? Well, miracles are not random. Miracles are not like poof, the genie. Miracles also, everything divinity creates. It can create on the physical level. You want to build a chair, you have to cut down a tree, saw the wood, hammer pieces together, or it can create in this deeper dimensional way where you don't start with the world of physicality and action, you start with the world of spirituality, of thought, of formation. And when you do it that way, when you learn to do it that way, things manifest around you. It's easier. It looks and feels miraculous. How do we do this? We learn, we practice, we study. We start by understanding. We start by holding a thought, a belief. This is a belief that will start to connect you to the new morphic field, the morphic field of Geula, of redemption, of Soviet Amin, of above nature. And that thought is everything that happens is happening literally for my good. It's coming directly from the source. So it is good, not it is good as an ending point. It is good as a catalyst toward my destiny. It is good as raw material that will help me to unfold and to morph into that which I'm meant to be, 2.0 version of me, supernatural version of me. And it is not here to override what I want. It's here to facilitate what I want in a deeper, more cosmic, more lasting way. And when we do that, everything starts to change. The Torah says every person is supposed to say to himself or herself, Bishvili nivra olam, the whole world was created for me. How does that work if you don't have your own reality bubble? How does it work that everybody's reality bubble somehow intermeshes with everybody else's? It's a little over my pay grade. But people do get different outcomes with different reality bubbles, with different connections to different morphic fields. Different things are possible. Different things are inevitable. Different things could be a life sentence or even worse, or just a ticket to freedom. And it all depends on what you decide and then what you connect to and how you learn and practice more of that. So Yeah, I think I'll end with this. And this day 4 of Elul. I didn't even introduce myself. I should start doing that again. I've been out of live streams for so long that I have to get into it again. Okay, so if you want to be on my mailing list, go to my website. It's right here under my name, gateofunity.com. It's under construction, but there is a sign up. And when you sign up for that, you will be getting all the transmissions that I send out, which I hope to increase soon. I'm also working on a quantum soul imprinting ebook. So if you're on the list, you will get that. And notifications of anything else I'm doing. So I wish you a very deeply meaningful and deeply transformative and deeply empowering and supernatural Elul. And may your potential, purpose, and destiny be fulfilled with your free will.